more. All right. So we've started the recording, but we'll probably give people a few more minutes to come in since it's just 11. You may have noticed that we are missing a charismatic leader. So Mike is otherwise occupied this time, but he will be back hopefully next time.
Next time.
So, and there's Beth. All right. So thanks all for joining. I'm glad that some of us could make it back this go around. I was kind of hoping the woman who had the issue with the client last time would join, and she still might. We're still early. But after we give it a couple minutes, Kip, I'm assuming you have a device in hand. Yeah. Oh, okay. So if you want to start, and then even if we have to show it again, I would love for you to show us that.
Well, the the first version was this.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead and walk us through like how you would use it. I love the name.
Well, part of, let's see, how do I say this? Part of designing something from scratch is you have to come up with an idea, to achieve the goal of what you want the device to do. And what I have found is you can't sit and think about it forever. You just have to start building it. And then if it doesn't work, if it's terrible, you go a different direction. So the idea was the woman with the tremor wants to be able to bait a hook using a worm, a live worm, without sticking her hand or fingers. So I had originally thought of a kind of something that would close in on the worm, that would have a channel in it, and then it would have a groove where she could run the hook. That was going to be complicated to 3D print because you have to come up with a hinge. When you're 3D printing stuff, you have to think of the shapes you're going to try and print, because the more complex the design, the harder it becomes. You have to break it into pieces and then assemble them and all that kind of thing. So my quickest idea was just something that she could hold on to. You could drop the worm into the groove there. And then I thought, well, we could just stabilize the hook out here at the end and poke through the worm. It's been a while since I've gone fishing, because they have fish at the supermarket. So I've forgotten, oh yeah, there's like different size worms and they wriggle quite a bit. So she printed this off and played around with it. And then she came up with some ideas. She put some Instamorph on it. And she said, what'd be really cool is if it had a scoop that she could just go ahead and use it to dig the worm out of the little container where you buy it at the bait shop. Oh, okay. That's interesting. So that became this. And I elongated the channels for the hooks.
Yeah.
And also what I did is I created, it's kind of hard to see, but I created 2 size channels for different size worms. The night crawlers go in the fat channel and the little regular worms go in this one. And then I elongated the grooves for the hooks so that she would have more opportunity to actually get the hook into the worm.
So show me how you get a worm in there.
Oh, well, this is the scaled up version.
Uh-huh.
The hook channels become even longer.
Right.
And what you do,
okay,
there's the two size channels. They actually go down into the handle as well. And I made this part here a little bit longer. My idea is that once you once you scoop the worm, you just kind of push it down in there, and then kind of hold it with your finger to keep the worm from coming out. And I'm assuming a worm has the natural instinct to try and go through that little hole to try and escape.
Hey, Kip.
Yeah.
So a couple things. I have fished a bit. So those worm things, they come in soil,
Right.
or some sort of planting soil. So there's going to be a lot of soil associated with this and fibrous material. So scooping is going to get you maybe a worm, maybe multiple worms, but definitely a lot of soil. Worms don't have eyes, so they're not looking for an opening. They're just feeling their way around.
Right.
So I think the next step for you is to go to the local sporting goods store and buy a thing of worms and just keep trying to see if you can actually get that son of a gun down in there. Once he's in there, well, then you have the hook issue. Now, another thing about worms, just hooking them isn't going to be enough. What you're going to end up doing is feeding a lot of fish unless you hook that worm really well. Just putting a hook in the tip of a worm just says, everybody come here and eat until you reach the part of this that's got a hook in it and stop. Hooking a worm is a technique all in and of itself. Getting a worm on there so it doesn't look like it's, a ball on the end of a hook.
Right.
You got to hook them multiple times, that kind of thing.
Well, and again, we're, excuse me, we're nerfing the process because we're accommodating the woman's tremor.
Right.
And this design, I believe she has already printed off and she's going to test, and then we'll just, we'll kind of see where it goes from there. But yeah, I understand. I didn't want to scoop a bunch of dirt up, but that was something she requested.
Right. I'm just saying, as the guy doing the design,
right,
there's nothing that beats you trying it yourself.
Right.
And really, I wish I could just go to Texas and meet the woman who's going to ultimately be working on it, because I may be way off base with what I'm trying to do. But
I agree. It's really helpful to have kind of firsthand knowledge of her needs.
Would it be possible for you to have a Zoom conference with her where she's showing you her trimmer and showing you what she's trying to do?
Oh, I'm sure it's possible. We just have to line up schedules.
Yeah.
And I guess she would probably come into the office with is it Suzanne? And but it's doable.
The other thing I would suggest, because of the dirt issue, is to punch a bunch of holes in your scoop, like a cheese grater or something like that, so that something that the dirt would have an easier chance falling through the holes. I mean, just quarter inch, something on the size of a pencil or something, and there's a much better chance that the worm's not going down one of those holes. But some of you could keep some of the dirt out of your little worm funnel.
Yeah.
I wonder if she could actually, if you scoop a worm, if she could get her hand on it, you could almost just shake off the dirt. Again, it's hard to know without knowing her.
And the issue of hooking the worm multiple times.
Yeah.
Depending on the length, this slot here at the end is open. So my concept is maybe they could hook kind of towards the end of the worm, pull it out a little bit, and then come back in and get it again.
Right.
But again, it's something you have to play with and see if that'll actually work.
You might also want to consider a similar version for dead bait. For example, I know some people fish with chicken livers or something like that. And so, again, same sort of thing, but, the trough and the area of your scooper is, you wouldn't need the dirt scoop, for example, just kind of like a small funnel with a slot in the side or something that she could scoop out a chicken liver and then spear it with the hook.
Yeah, we were specifically, Ezra, I don't know if you were here last month, but we were specifically asked for worms for this one.
Yeah.
I do think there is a case to be made for having a few different options that, you know, people can 3D print. We had talked last time about this is great for kids as well as folks with disabilities, but, you know, some people are going to want to fish with worms and others with, what did you call it last time? Power bait. And,
Yeah.
you know, things that I know nothing about because I don't fish. But, you know, different options like liver. I think it would be cool to have a few variations once, you know, if you're going to keep going with this kit, once you have a design, but, you know, a few variations for some of those options.
Well, I mean, you know, the goal of this exercise would be the woman that requested the device, does it help her? And this is not going to be in Bass Pro for sale. It's going to be a 3D file that anybody can print, and that'll be the extent of what I do with it.
Right.
You might be surprised. You might be surprised because sometimes you build something like this and then, hey, so maybe someone with arthritis or maybe someone that fishes only with one hand, or, you know, there might be other people that would look at that and like, wow, I mean, I should try it because I love to fish, or maybe I used to love fishing and I can't do it anymore. You never know.
Right. I think that it's an interesting enough idea that with a design, I'm not saying that, you know, any of us need to go get a patent, but if somebody wanted to, especially like the woman said, her dad had 5 kids and was really busy baiting hooks. Adam, I agree. There could be a market for something like this.
But if there's not, there's always Thingiverse.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. 100%. I think many of us here today are on that page.
I may be a bit jaded on the concept of trying to sell a small item like this, patent it, and et cetera, et cetera. I've got a buddy who came up with a design for it's an accessory for a record player. And, you know, the audiophiles, a lot of people are getting back into vinyl and all this kind of stuff. And I said, oh, you know, that's a cool idea. I don't care for that stuff, but I think what you came up with is pretty cool. And are you going to patent it? And he goes, no. He says, I'm going to set up with a manufacturer in China, and I'm going to sell as many of them as I can, as quickly as I can, before some other Chinese company steals the idea and undercuts my price. And that's kind of the reality with some of this stuff. If you have a complex assembly or something that contains, you know, circuitry and things like that, you get a more complex patent, and there's a what would I say? There's a forecast of making a pretty good profit where you have the, you know, you would be able to afford the backing of having attorneys that would sue. Once it's duplicated in China and it goes on the market, you're pretty much done.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of folks that consider themselves makers are less interested in the patents and more interested in helping an individual. And then if it, you know, like if it goes further, fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Patents are a lot like locks. They keep honest people out. And also you do have to look at, I mean, what's the market? If the market is small and it's a niche product, then it's usually not worth the expense of getting a patent because it's expensive to get a patent. And also there's not going to be a million people out there trying to steal your idea if it's a niche market, a niche product too. So
Right.
I think that's why like the conditional patents or sometimes the design patents are a nice way to go, because they're simpler and they're less expensive, and you just have, something that says patent on it will scare some people away.
Right.
Well, and
The last time the last time we looked at the cost to patent something, all the sources we found said it was in the ballpark of 12,000 to 15,000. By the time you submitted all the paperwork and done all the back studies, lawyer fees, and for a big company, that's pocket money. But if that's part of the business model, is if you're going to sell something and make buck with it and patent it, you have to have 15,000 thrown into the patent office first. And for small 3D printed stuff or one-offs, or there might be 300 people in the country that want one of these things. And that might eventually get more, but unless you're bulk producing and manufacturing this thing, and it's not worth the time, energy, hassle. Just throw it out there. If anybody wants it, they can have it.
Right.
yeah, it's and once you get into 3D printing, part of we got our 3D printers, and you immediately think, oh, well, we're going to be printing off trinkets and figurines and little toy soldiers, and just for the fun of printing them. So we kind of set some rules as to what we're going to print. We're not going to just be printing silly stuff. We printed adaptive phone cases for cell phones. One of the statements I made was, you can get online, you can get into the catalogs, and anything that says disability, it's usually got a hefty price associated with it. So if there's some little handle or hook or little device, and because it's a specialized disability product, and it's $100, I made the statement, if there's something like that a consumer needs that I can duplicate quickly, just using primitive shapes on Tinkercad, then we'll do that. Because why not? You get the mindset once you have a 3D printer and kind of a machine shop behind me here, not much, but the whole concept of we need this specialized piece of equipment, or we can't do that because it's patented. I can just build it. If I want something, I'm going to just make it, and just sidestep the whole process. And ultimately, if that thing is on Thingiverse and they provided another link, some other maker or 3D printing site that specializes in stuff for people with disabilities, we'll upload it there too. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Hey, so let me suggest, since I talked to Christina just yesterday, she was in the previous call, and she had never heard of this place. If you guys don't know about Makers Making Change, you need to find it today.
That's it.
I was going to say that too. So they have a lot of good stuff there, and download it. Here are the instructions on how to make it. If it has
best of all, the thing about them that's best of all is they have a grant from the Canadian government. They have people on salary. They have a budget. They do strategic planning. This is not just you and me setting up our own website and putting a few things out there on Thingiverse or whatever. These guys are actually in the business of AT, DIY AT for the long term.
Yeah.
Well, Scout, I had something I wanted to show everyone.
Good. I was just going to ask if somebody else had something.
One of my students uses, instead of a regular mouse, he uses a joystick, but then he activates his left and right mouse clicks with his right hand. And we've been working with different holders for switches. And this is kind of the latest one we came up with. This is the cardboard prototype.
Uh-huh.
And this strap is the Velcro one wrap. which
Okay.
Velcros to itself, and then just 2 switches. And I've got some photos of a second prototype, which is made out of ABS plastic. I'd like to show you.
Yeah.
Here's, can you see that?
No.
Oh, whoops, hold on. Sorry. How about now?
Yeah, we can see that.
So here's one photo of it. Let's see, I've got a few more shots here. Here's it from
Okay.
the front. So he's got a right and a left switch that are plugged into a USB switch interface. And the nice thing about it is he can put his hand wherever he wants to put his hand. The switches go with him.
Right.
So he can put his arm in the most comfortable position, and then the switches are right there. We're playing around with it a little bit because I wanted to add a divider between the switches so the fingers wouldn't get in the way of each other. So we're kind of experimenting with that now.
And
But
what are the switches? Like what are you using?
oh, the switches themselves?
Yeah.
Well, we've been trying different ones. This one is actually made by Celtic Magic in England, but it's basically like a microlight. The ones on the prototype are actually the ones that Logitech puts in their Xbox adaptive controller kit.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're very much like the ASL. I think they might even be the ASL low profile switches.
Do they have to be USB?
Do what have to be USB?
Switches.
Well, the switches are 1/8 inch switches.
Oh, okay, so they're just headphone plug. So what
Yes.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to send to the chat here in a second a Makers Making Change proposal for a DIY switch that doesn't even involve soldering. It's a little micro, easy touch switch that, if you're looking to provide something where you have a lot of flexibility in where you place it, for example, this might be just the right thing to consider. If nothing else, it's a really small, sensitive DIY switch.
Thanks, Ken.
Real simple in its design.
And just to throw this out there, is everyone here familiar with the Makey Makey?
Yeah.
Okay. You can make pretty much any concept of a switch for a computer with some foil and whatever. You can pretty much do it with a Makey Makey.
Well, one thing that I'm always worried about with switches is I want something that's going to be really durable. I mean, even jelly bean switches die after 6 months to a year if someone's like really using it all the time. So I get really frustrated with the manufactured switches that the parts are not as good as they used to be. The wires are not as good as they used to be. The plugs, if you look at it the wrong way, they bend and break. So I'm looking for like an industrial strength, micro light switch.
Ken, what have you got to say about yours for the holdup longevity?
Say again?
No, I was wondering what Ken had, what the longevity was of the
DIY switch.
The DIY switch.
Yeah, so I'm just sending the link now. This was actually the idea and design of a guy from Makers Making Change. That's why his username starts with MMC. And I've long been pushing for solderless switch designs. So he came up with one, and he's just put it out there in front of a bunch of people saying, what do you think? But I'm just looking at it, and it just incorporates a standard micro switch, and they're really durable. They're the same thing, basically, well, in many keyboards. So they take a lot of wear and tear.
That's good.
The way we've solved this, we've done it a couple ways. The first way is switches that we can bulk produce with our CNC machine and or our 3D printers. I found a company in Texas that sells the lids for makeup jars, and they will sell you the lid without you having to buy the jar. And so basically, if this is the switch, cut out of wood, 3/8 inch plywood on CNC, you get the little, plunger switch, and then on the top, you essentially take one of these nice polished makeup lid caps and glue it on the top. So basically, it's a DIY jelly bean switch that has a nice finished, nice smooth top. And we can make those for about $3 a piece if we're doing the CNC route. And so, that allows us to do a toy giveaway, adapted toy giveaway or something. And everybody gets a switch if they don't already have one, without spending $70 a piece on a jelly bean. So that's one way. The other way is you can occasionally find some of these pedal switches that industrial strength, super heavy duty, designed for people to step on and control a table saw or something like that. But you can occasionally find a good deal on those, used or secondhand or something like that. They're again designed for big, thick, heavy duty cord or something, but easy enough to take it apart and put in a switch cable. With the knowledge that this is pretty much indestructible. It's a little bit heavier, but you can adjust, you can take the spring out and it becomes a lot more responsive. We've also had a good run with using the Cherry micro switches that come in arcade parts, because arcade machine stuff is designed to have the utter heck beat out of it anyway, and those make great switches that you can put a lever or something else like that on that will activate it. And again, they're rated for industrial use, designed to be torn apart and survive that. So I've done some things with just like an arcade machine, but like in the handheld grip or mounted into a board or into a desk where the person can use it.
Do you know, is it the same Cherry company that makes the keyboard switches?
I think, and I'm not sure if I'm saying the manufacturer right. I will look it up in a second. I know there are plenty of people who use the Cherry Blue, for example, keyboard switch as the basis of a adapted capability switch. A lot of the designs I've seen actually use those, and again, those are cheap and they're designed to take a beating.
Because if you're able to use a keyboard switch as the switch in a device, Cherry MX is, I forget what their life cycle is supposed to be. It's crazy. I think they're all built in Germany.
Anyway, I was just looking for some feedback on that. Any suggestions on ways to make it better or ideas for a better hand strap would be greatly appreciated.
Have you, I don't know how it would connect. The last month, there was the woman who sold that, looked like a silicone strap. Who remembers what it's called?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if that would be helpful, but
Yeah. I remember that. I can't remember the name of it though. The functional hand?
No, the functional hand was a handle with a cord. This was just like a strip of silicone with circles on the ends that you would put like over a fork to to be the universal grip kind of thing.
Giraffe, something.
No,
easy hold.
The easy hold. Yep.
Yeah.
So
that's a good idea.
If you want to purchase something like that, I don't know how much those cost. But if
Can
it's
I-
silicone, that's nice. It's easily washable. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, can I ask what, I love One Wrap for everything. So like how are you looking to improve it? Do you want it to be softer? Do you want it to be more durable? Like when you say, I want to improve the strap, tell me what improve means to you. is
You're like
my
One Wrap,
question.
you're done.
Yeah. Well, once it's on, it would be nice to be able to cinch it down, just a little bit more, because I don't want it too tight, of course, but I'd like a little bit tighter to keep it from moving around too much. So, I think Velcro makes like a buckle that you can actually, cinch a little bit on a D-ring kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah, because if you want to be able to have it larger when you put your hand in and then cinch it down, you are going to need a D-ring. I mean, and Velcro's it seems the most reasonable way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you could even add a piece of like moleskin, or even, I don't know if you have access to like splinting, like the strapping, that nice soft foam, if you wanted to put something like that in to make it a little more comfortable and still have that cinching, that may help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, the plastic side of Velcro can be a little bit abrasive.
Yeah, the One Wrap's not bad compared to, standard Velcro, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what's nice about the One Wrap. If you put the soft side on the inside on both straps, it doesn't matter which way you put them on top of each other. You're always going to have the soft side against your skin.
I guess I never buy brand name anything anymore. So I don't buy Velcro. I buy some Chinese knockoff.
Well, and maybe that's the advantage of the name brand, is it might be a little softer, easier on the skin. John threw in the chat, Neil Squire. Chad, John, I don't know if you, tell us.
Hi, first time in this group. If you're looking for someone to contact directly, Chad's, excuse me, Chad's been involved with Neil Squire and Makers Making Change pretty much since the outset. He's very personable. He's great. He's a fabulous resource, and he can point you in the right direction if you have any questions.
Always good to have a name and,
Exactly.
and contact. Yeah.
I know that Makers Making Change also has lots of local chapters. Like here, we've got a New York, New Jersey chapter. So the people you're dealing with are, not so far away geographically.
And they encourage you to form your own chapter and support your local region.
Ken, do you have one in your area? You're in Colorado, correct?
I'm in, just northwest of Denver. No, I've kept my head down as much as possible. I haven't got time to be a leader of any chapter of people. But there are great people out there who are willing to take on the extra work that I just don't have the intestinal fortitude to do.
Yeah. So is anybody that's here today have involved in a local chapter of Makers Making Change?
I'm marginally involved with the New York, New Jersey chapter, but really just a little bit. I've been to a couple of their meetings. They also have some maker workshops, which are nice. I guess that's the national organization's been doing that. But it's a really great organization because the local chat, we've got some engineering professors, we've got some AT people, we've got some teachers, we've got, users, some computer scientists. So it's a nice mix of people, and it's great for brainstorming because you get all these people from different perspectives giving their 2 cents. So
right.
I would go beyond that, Scott. I'd say even the Makers Making Change website is unique in that it attempts to bring together makers, therapists, people in that domain, and users. And it tries to put them together at the website level to create, to suggest ideas, suggest problems, come up with new ideas. So what Adam's describing at the chapter level, actually you could do across the entire domain of Makers Making Change.
Yeah, I really appreciate that on their website is, it's so clearly incorporating the person with the need, that they are driving a lot of the, integral to the process, which to me is huge.
The other place you can look for that here in Pennsylvania, as part of the state AT Act program out of Temple, we have Create that attempts to do the same thing to pair local makers with people with disabilities in need on a local level. So every state's got some sort of state AT Act program. If you need, yeah, exactly. If you need help finding yours, I can probably do that.
Yeah, I am just a little bit curious. I think we're coming to the end of time. Ezra, may I ask where you work?
I work at Signal Centers. We are one of the Tech Act centers for the state of Tennessee.
Great. I was guessing on the southern half of the country.
I could talk more country if I need to.
All right. No, Naomi, I'm guessing we are kind of coming up on time. We did say half an hour. I think we slotted 45 minutes for this one. I want to give time if anybody has anything else they want to bring up, but I don't want to keep everybody too long because I'd like you all to come back.
I have a quick request.
Yes.
I'm looking for occupational therapists who want to give feedback on a new product I'm working on to help kids learn how to keyboard. So I'm looking for some occupational therapists who do keyboarding. I want to put together some prototypes and send them out to them and have them take a look at it. So if you are an OT or you know an OT who is involved in keyboarding and would like to do some alpha testing, it's not beta testing yet.
So Adam, can I make a suggestion? And the way I've had support from therapists to do some of my stuff, but the way I go about it is I am a member of the QIAT listserv, the mailing list. And it's got a ton of people on it across the country and even some in Europe. All you do is you join the listserv, and I can send you a link for that.
I'm on it.
Oh, you are? Just
but that's a really good idea.
Put your request right in there in a post.
It's a great idea.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah. You get 20 people in a day.
Right. And then nobody after that.
Right. Because they won't see it. There's so much.
It gets buried under other stuff.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, for anybody who's not on that listserv, it really is sometimes overwhelming, but it's a great amount of information. The quiet listserv, QIAT. I don't know how you get on it. I don't remember.
Yeah, if I can do this quickly, I'll try and find the link here. I still have some of their messages in my inbox, I'm sure.
Yeah, and Naomi's put something in the chat. I don't know if you can just search that.
Yeah, I mean there is a URL.
Yeah, that's, I kind of thought. Whoever can do it quickly, then we'll have it.
It's a race.
Is it QIAT.org?
Yeah, but that may not be where you want to go to actually get on the listserv.
Okay.
It may be, but
Yeah, so John put it in the,
okay.
in the chat, and then, yep, Naomi has it in there again. So I
Right.
think for anyone who wants to join, it's there. Thank you both. I don't even try to be quick into the chat. All right, well, anybody else have any last thing?